All right, you think we've got it bad? Spare a thought for our cousins across the pond today.
A vital part of cooperation with our NATO allies is defending ourselves against Russian attempts to interfere with our democracy. To that end, can I ask the Secretary of State what possible reason the government can have to delay the publication of the ISC report until after the general election? What on earth do they have to hide?
What on earth do they have to hide? You know, we've got our own drama over here, but our closest overseas ally is having their own very American-seeming version of it right now, all of a sudden. For the past year and a half, the Intelligence Committee in the British Parliament, with the help of British intelligence services, they've been doing a review about Russian influence operations in the UK, the possibility of Russian interference in the Brexit referendum, where the UK surprised everybody in the world by voting to extract itself from the European Union. The intelligence report has also been looking at whether Russia, more broadly, has been penetrating and subverting British political institutions, whether Russian money has been used by the Kremlin to try to influence British politics and political outcomes. They've been working on this thing for a year and a half. They finished it. The finished report is apparently about 50 pages. The Intelligence Committee's finished it. They put the report through whatever classification review it needed to go through. They put in the redactions that were warranted in terms of sensitive information that couldn't be shown to the public. They got that all done. And then one last step. They submitted for one last sign-off to number 10 Downing Street. So the British Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, could put his signature on it as a formality, and then it could be released to Parliament and ultimately to the public. That process is an official thing in the British parliamentary system. The Cabinet Office says the Prime Minister has 10 days to give something like that one last look and affix his signature, and then away it goes. But that 10-day period has come and gone now. And now the new British Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, says he's not going to release that report. At least he's not going to allow it to be released before the UK has their next general election on December 12th. I mean, Boris Johnson is only Prime Minister because of the political disaster that is the Brexit vote in the UK. The only reason they're having another election next month is because of the Brexit disaster in the UK. Well, here's the long-awaited report on potential foreign influence in creating the Brexit disaster in the UK in the first place. The report is done. The Intelligence Committee that did it wants it out. This is this nonpartisan intelligence product that's designed to let the British people know what's going on. They specifically tried to have it finished before the next election. But Boris Johnson is like, yeah, I know, but I'm just not going to allow it to be released. No, not before the voting. And so today in Parliament in London, there was an emergency debate on what the heck is going on here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for granting this urgent question, and can I thank the Right Honourable and learned member for Beaconsfield for securing it and for all his efforts. I can only echo his words about the utterly unjustifiable, unprecedented and clearly politically motivated reasons for delaying publication of this report until after the election. This is not at the request of the intelligence agencies. There are no foreign powers we have to consult, which was the reason for the delay of the rendition report. This is nothing less than an attempt to suppress the truth from the public and from Parliament, and it is an affront to our democracy. So we are bound to ask, what is Downing Street so worried about? Why would they not welcome an official report into attempted Russian interference in the 2016 referendum, whether successful or otherwise? And I fear it is because they realise that this report will lead to other questions about the links between Russia and Brexit and with the current leadership of the Tory party, which risks derailing their election campaign.
So Boris Johnson, the British Prime Minister, is being criticised there in Parliament today in this emergency debate by a senior member of the opposition Labour Party. But he's taking criticism on this point from both Labour and Conservative MPs. The Prime Minister's office, honestly, has no explanation as to why they're not letting this report be released. Basically, all they've said is that they want more time. Under the rules, they don't get more time, but they are suppressing that report nonetheless. They're not allowing it out before the election. Now, it's interesting watching this from over here. You see the contrast in terms of the way things run over there and the way things run here. Number one, everybody who speaks in Parliament is very articulate, and that's hard to get used to. But number two, nobody in Britain seems to believe there's any real risk of this report being leaked, either to Parliament or to the public. And if that's the case, if there's no chance that this thing could leak, this may be a done deal. Parliament had this emergency debate on the subject today, which didn't resolve the issue. At the end of that debate, Parliament closed the doors and went home. They are now due to be home and out of session until the election happens, till after the election happens on December 12th. And under the rules for how these things are handled, this report, because it's a parliamentary report, it can't be released while the Parliament is not in session. And so Prime Minister Boris Johnson appears to have submarined this thing to keep it away from the British public before they have to go vote on whether or not they want to keep him as Prime Minister. And, I mean, to be clear about what a freaking mess this is for them, this gentleman is the top advisor to Boris Johnson as Prime Minister. Remember when Steve Bannon was working in the White House, and the way that Saturday Night Live portrayed Steve Bannon in the White House was that he was the Grim Reaper, and it was super terrifying? He was like... That is how Dominic Cummings is seen in Britain. But he ended up as Boris Johnson's top advisor. He ended up in the Prime Minister's office specifically because of Brexit. He was the campaign director for the Vote Leave campaign during the Brexit referendum. Vote Leave, since that referendum, has been fined and referred to the police for illegal spending in the Brexit campaign. Just this past week, police referred that case to prosecutors for potential criminal prosecution. Dominic Cummings also simultaneously has become the subject of some sort of high-level whistleblower complaint, raising concerns about his unexplained links to the Russian government and Russian interests as he was running the Brexit campaign and then becoming the top advisor to the pro-Brexit prime minister, who now won't let the Brexit Russian interference report come out before people have to vote on him. I mean, as of tonight, the prime minister's office is refusing to answer questions about that as well. So, take comfort, America. It's not just us. Even our closest overseas ally is living their own version of this same nightmare with even more urgency about the perversion of the next election, which for us is a year away, but for them it's less than 6 weeks away. And in the midst of everything else going on here, President Trump found time today for a one-on-one phone call with Boris Johnson. You can imagine the conversation. So tell me more about you just not allowing the Russian interference report to be released. You're just sitting on it? You're just keeping it? You're just saying people can't see it until after the election or maybe never? Tell me what that's like. Oh, and this you have a whistleblower too? You're just refusing to engage on that? You think that's going to work? You got anybody who could help you figure out who the whistleblower is? You going to go after him, Boris? I mean, imagine what these two have to talk about at this point in both of their careers. Here at home today, to say the least, was not an awesome day for President Trump, either electorally in terms of what has happened tonight to Republican candidates at the polls, nor was it an ideal day in terms of his ongoing impeachment proceedings in Washington. Today, those proceedings took a sharp turn for the worse in terms of what had been the president's defense. More on that ahead. Stay with us.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.